Pathway is a game that feels like a mix between Faster Than Light and Indiana Jones. Where Faster Than Light is centered around space exploration and the fantasy of being a spaceship captain, Pathway feels like being inserted directly into an Indiana Jones action movie. The game cycles between a board game-like overworld map and grid-based RPG combat. Pathway does a good job of creating the mood of an Indiana Jones adventure. It captures the race across the desert with danger and treasure waiting around every corner. Just like in Faster Than Light, you must manage fuel and resources as you race across the map in a series of chapters. There are shops, battles, and other encounters waiting along the way. Unlike FTL, there is no incoming horde to escape from, and you are able to backtrack throughout the map as you like, to find items, or recruit additional characters. However, fuel is a very limited resource and persists over the various stages of each chapter, so you must plan your route carefully. If you do run out of fuel, it'll cost your character's health as they run between the points of the map. You travel across chapters racing from the start to the end point, rescuing your allies, thwarting enemies, and finding treasure. At the end of each chapter, there is a challenging final battle. There are many unlockable characters, each with their own skills and proficiencies, and they can level up and put points into skill trees. Depending on your party's character specializations, you have access to different options when encountering enemies or obstacles, so you are encouraged to try out different characters and keep a well-balanced party. Weapons and money can be stored across runs, and characters level up, giving the game a roguelike element. The combat in Pathway is hard at first, with many of the enemies being armed with powerful ranged weapons, but it gets easier as your characters level and acquire better equipment. Pathway also has a bravery system, which means that your characters can only use each of their skills a couple of times per battle. You have to plan your attacks and make sure you make the most of each skill in order to be successful. There is also an armor system which absorbs some of the damage your characters take. Depending on the type of attack, some damage might pierce through, so you need to keep both your HP and armor as high as possible. The combat in Pathway feels a lot like XCOM. You select a character, move them, and see if any enemies are in range to attack. If not, you can choose between a character's unique skills, or set them to Overwatch or Dodge. Many of the weapons are firearms, but you also have access to grenades, melee weapons, and healing items. Unlike XCOM, there is no permadeath, and characters can be revived even if their HP falls to 0. If a character is knocked out during a run, you will be unable to use them in the next expedition unless you pay a small fee. This means that if you prefer a set of characters and lose a run, you'll have to try a different party for the next run. Pathway's visuals are simple but polished. The pixel animation style is clean and allows for a lot of flexibility. The game's random encounters are animated, which helps to add life to the text portions. Unlike some other games, the combat and overworld sections of Pathway both look equally beautiful. Many of the random encounters in Pathway are determined by a dice roll. This, combined with the board game-like overworld map, really gives Pathway a tabletop RPG feel. It is similar to a solo-player Dungeons & Dragons adventure, only with an Indiana Jones theme. Unlocking all the different characters gives a sense of progression, and keeps the game fresh through multiple playthroughs. The plot of Pathway is intriguing, with many twists and turns to keep you playing. The game evolves from a simple quest to rescue a friend into something much more sinister. The mysterious, fantastical elements of Indiana Jones are all in place here. From ancient artifacts to buried tombs to oasis villages and army bases, you see them all from the safety of your Jeep. Pathway is another game that blends science fiction and fantasy. While many of the characters have a historic feel to match the mood of the game, there are some scientists armed with futuristic weapons. This, coupled with the mystery of the game's plot, firmly blends the barrier between science fiction and fantasy. Overall, Pathway is an excellent game and feels like a successful blend of digital and board game elements, taking strengths from both to make for an enjoyable experience. I recommend playing it if you would like to embark on an adventurous treasure hunt. Thank you for listening, and happy holidays.